Hey guys, it's Sabina. I hope everybody had a good week. I just want to come on here and read a couple poems. There's always something that God is always dealing with me about, and the last few weeks, well, really my whole life, I've really been thinking about patience. That's the scary word, right? You know, it's like I had my friend. He always used to say, "Don't pray for patience, because then you'll be put in a really bad situation." That was my friend who passed away. I remember he said he prayed for patience, and then he got expedited from New York to Florida, and he had to sit in this like van for days with no AC. And he's like, I had to learn patience then. It just made me think of that character. Patience. We need patience in all sorts of situations in our lives, you know. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I wrote a couple poems this week. They're short, but I just wanted to come on here and share them with you guys. Okay. First one is called Rebel. Every rebel needs their rest, especially after going through many tests. Every rebel quietly roams after many picked up stones. Every rebel longs for a home, especially when it was never shown. Every rebel, just like me, longs to be free after years of captivity. You were a rebel of your time. You were always accused of crossing the lines. I'm the branches and you're the vine. In this season, I'm taking back all that is rightfully mine. If I abide in you, there's nothing I can't do. Nothing I can't do when I'm resting in you. Every rebel finds their way when they surrender to you each and every day. Every rebel can finally see true peace is only found in thee. I've been going through a lot, you know. I come on here and, you know, I share a lot of stuff, you know, especially things that have happened in my past, but it's been a really trying time, and I always think of myself as a rebel for sure. Just this time now, I'm a rebel for Jesus, you know. And Jesus was a rebel, right? He was, right? I brought this up before. All the religious people of his day, they couldn't stand him because he did everything that they didn't want him to do. He loved the unlovely, you know. He sat with the sinners, you know. And sometimes, you know, we all need that rest, you know, when you've been through a lot and it's been like one attack after the other, you're just like, you just want to catch your breath, you know. But God is faithful, and patience, right? With faith and patience, we inherit the promises of God. Sometimes we get impatient, you know. I know for myself, I've thought, you know, I waited years for this, and then I go and try to help myself, and how many times have I made horrible decisions and mistakes because I didn't want to wait anymore. I got impatient because I thought God was taking too long. How many times have I prayed about something already? Everybody always says that. They're like, you know, oh, I prayed, God didn't answer. Well, sometimes God does answer, but it's not in our time. And it's not in our way, and we live in an instant, right? We want everything like yesterday. Think about all the car accidents that happen every day. People are in a rush going nowhere. You know, people like, so many accidents I've almost been in down here because people cut me off, or they don't signal, or they're speeding by, right? Such is life. Sometimes we're just trying to get everything done, and we make careless mistakes. And in a minute, I'm going to tell you a story that I did a couple days ago that was so careless because I was being impatient. So this one's called I Have Heard. I have heard songs in the night when I was filled with much fright. While you were cleaning up my ravenous appetite, it was a fight, I have heard your voice quiet and still while detoxing from all those pills. I have heard the echoes of hope with your majestic impression, destroying every one of my faulty perceptions. I have heard a distant cry on those nights when I begged to just die. I have heard the sound of your heartbeat as you made my enemies obsolete. I've heard your songs in the night as you were restoring my sight. I remember one night when, after everything had happened and my ex years ago in 2010, he came after me and it was a whole big thing. And I remember it was such a hard time, and one night I was falling asleep, and I think I've shared this before, but for anyone that's never heard it, and I was closing my eyes and I felt like I was in a giant hand, and I was just being rocked to sleep. And I would always make the joke, no, I wasn't drunk, it wasn't the spins, and the spins would never feel so majestic. It was like I knew God was calming my soul, and he was rocking me like a baby. He knows what we need when we need it. And I always wanted him to do that again, and he never has. But at that time in my life, I needed that moment. And I didn't want to open my eyes because I didn't want it to stop. There's nothing that any of us go through that God isn't aware, and we can accuse him and think, well, why is he allowing this to happen? But there's always a greater purpose. He's building our character, he's building our trust. Like I said in another video, how do you get muscles, right? You get muscles because every day you keep going, right? And then the weight increases so you can get stronger. And sometimes our trials in life, they increase so that we can get stronger. But there's always a time of rest, and that's where that poem, this rebel needs a rest. Straight up. This one is called, Who Can Love You Like I Can? And this is like God saying this to me, to you. Who can love you like I can? There is not one single man who can protect you like I do. I am Emmanuel. I'm always with you. Who can provide for your every need? Take my hand and let me lead. Who can sing over you the way I do? I am more than just God. I'm in love with you. Who can wipe your every tear, soothe your soul when you feel fear? Who can change an entire situation, turn your sorrow into a celebration? Who can rock you sound to sleep, bring you back when you're that lost sheep? Who can restore the years that were stolen, make your latter days golden? Who can be the cure for all you've endured? Just wait and see what I have in store. Just wait and see what I have in store. And that's the truth. Nobody can love you like Jesus. Nobody. Think about all the guys that I've known in my life, right? We're always looking for someone to be our emotional support, right? And yes, we need, right? To a certain extent. But what happens when you're in a situation in your life and you know what? No one gets it. Who gets it? Nobody really can understand what I walk through with certain things and some of the demonic stuff that's happened to me, some of the evil, bizarre things that I've seen and endured. Even well-meaning Christians, they look at me like I'm crazy because they don't understand, because they didn't live it. But God did. He understands. He knows why I struggle in certain areas, and he's bringing me into completion. He knows how to pluck us out. The other day I was at this event where we go and feed the homeless, and a friend of mine does worship at this park, and I had told him a story about a swan that I found in a sewer years ago when I was rollerblading, and I kept seeing, and I think I've told this story, but I'm going to say it real quick. And I was rollerblading, and I kept seeing something peek its little beak out or something, and I was like, what is that? So I stopped, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was pitch black. I couldn't see what it even was, but this precious animal was stuck, and I was like, I went to even go roll it, leave. I couldn't. All I kept thinking was, this animal is stuck. and they can't get out, and it's pitch dark. They can't see. They're stuck. And I guess people were driving by, and a neighbor came out and was like, what are you doing, you know? And I was like, this animal's stuck. And then I started to see it had like I could kind of see it had like a beak. So she came out and gave me bread. This poor baby was starving. So like, I'm feeding. Mind you, it's still pitch black. I can't see how big it is, how small it is. All I can see is this little mouth. And I'm feeding it. But it's still stuck in this dingy, dark place. So even though I'm feeding it, it can't get out. So what did I do? Finally, I couldn't leave. We called the animal protection or whatever they are. And they came. And it took them a while to get that whole, sewer up. And they pull out this huge, it was big. It was a swan, but it still didn't look like a swan. It was covered in, looked like tar. It was all black. I mean, its feathers were, they were just stuck together. It was like emaciated. It had been stuck down there for so long. And I was like, what kind of bird is it? And the guy was like, it's a swan. A swan. How does a swan get stuck in a sewer? Isn't that like us? Isn't that, I don't care. You don't have to have been a drug addict. You don't have to have been, you could have been someone, you could be listening right now and you don't know God. You're stuck in whatever, an abusive relationship, an addiction, a compulsion, or you just don't know where you're going to spend eternity. And I thought of that. And it was so like I couldn't get the swan in the sewer. That's all of us. We're all swans in the sewer until we come to Jesus. I don't care. You don't have to have been, some people like, oh, well, I'm a good person. And no. If we don't get cleaned off, right? That bird was going to be in intensive care for a while. It was damaged. It was messed up. And it was going to take days to get her feathers cleaned, to clean her. Well, funny. Patience. What is someone we need to be patient with or something? Ourselves. I thought in 2010, after I gave my life to Jesus, that it was like, all right, life is good. That's it. I didn't understand that I was, and it wasn't like, oh, we all have different levels, and that's why I always say you got to be careful when you judge someone that, maybe they are Christian, and you're like, oh, you don't know how down in the sewer, how dark their past is, and how you may be thinking, oh, well, how could this girl, have this or do that, or she still curses, or she still does this. You don't know the level of intensive care that person needed just to be able to breathe, to eat, to function. It was always still a swan. That bird was still a swan, but got lost. They said sometimes they get, I don't know, that way the guy said it was like sometimes it like went down a wrong tunnel. Boy, did I go down a wrong tunnel as a kid, and it led to a very, very hard life. And even as a person that believes in God and loves Jesus, I've had torments that only God knows. And just to get cleaned up in the ICU, I've had to learn how to be patient with myself, because I would hate myself and think, well, how can I, I had bad, like that poem I was just reading, a ravenous appetite, but also I had really messed up mind. And I still struggle sometimes, because trauma is a real thing. Things we go through in our lives, we all have issues. But it's about being real with yourself and with God. And the one thing I can't stand is a fake. You know, there's too many people acting holier than thou. There's too many prideful Christians out there. You know, I keep hearing all these scandals. I don't know where I'm going with this real quick. And it sucks because so many people, like I always say, give God a bad rep. People you're supposed to trust that are in leadership, that are pastors. You know, they say, I was never Catholic, but the Catholic Church, there are people that hate anyone that believes in God. And I understand, because the most trusted people in our society, not everybody, there's some amazing men and women of God. They have literally taken advantage of their leadership, and they were predators. And that's why I always say, God, give us discernment. Like, we should have discernment. We should always pray about people. Like, some people are so loyal to a pastor, or so loyal to whatever, you know, that they don't even want to see what that person's involved in. I don't know why I just went there, but I'm just saying, like, I understand why people walk away from God. But remember, God is God. He is sovereign and magnificent. Just like this last poem. Who can love you like he can? Who gets you? Who can cheer you on? Who can do a miracle in your life that is so ridiculous? You know? Part the Red Sea in your life. Whatever your situation is. Calm those storms. Like him. There's no man. There's no woman. So many of us want, rush to get in a relationship because we don't want to be alone. But I'd rather be alone than be with the wrong person, because I've done that too many times in my life. And we don't have the patience, or maybe you don't know God, right? So even if, maybe people I know do know God, and they just, what do we call it? What do they call it? Missionary dating? Like, they find somebody and then they want to convert them. I've done it. A lot of people have done it. Instead of waiting and standing and saying, okay, you have the right person for me. And at the right time, sometimes you don't have the person that you want because you would mess it up. Because God's still trying to heal you. And you don't want to go through that. Or you think, listen, we all think we're done. We're not done. Healing takes time. And it doesn't mean you have to be completely healed. God can send the right person in your life at any time. And they might even help with certain parts of you that are going to be healed. Maybe you never knew how to accept love. I know I sure didn't. I don't think I ever felt loved by anyone in my family except for my mom, in the last 15 years. Right? Rejection. I was just talking to someone a little while ago about the root of rejection. It is deep. It is really deep. And then when you have that, or we were talking about that the other night at a meeting, of the orphan spirit, where you always feel like you don't belong. And I've always felt that way. I've always felt like a misfit. I mean, I kind of am in a lot of ways, but I've never felt like I belong or I'm accepted. And it's always been a struggle. But you know what you got to know? God accepts you. God loves you. He loves me. And he knows what he's doing in all of our lives if we just submit and we're patient. There are a few scriptures that I printed out that are really good. And then I'm going to tell you the story about how, and this is a silly story. No, it's not silly, because it shows if I would have been patient, it wouldn't have gotten as bad as it did. So, Romans 12:12, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be in constant prayer. Galatians 6:9, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So how they say, what you sow you reap, right? Or everybody says karma, right? Well, sometimes people get sick of doing the right thing, right? And they get angry and they're like, all this stuff is still bad happening. Well, it says here, don't grow weary of doing good, which means that you can grow weary. I know that there's been times where I'm like, wow, man, not that I want to do bad to people, but it's just you get tired, For in due season, we will reap if we do not give up. If. There's a lot of ifs. God has promises, but there's usually a contingency. If this, then that, right? Sometimes you got to pray for God to give you the grace to keep going. I'm just going to keep it real. Sometimes you have to say, my favorite is, I used to pray that all the time, especially early on. I was like, there's so many things that I was afraid that I was going to do to mess things up, in my life. And I was like, just please help me not to grow weary in well-doing. Just help me not to give up. Just help me. Like I always say, God changed my appetites. God, see, if you keep it real with God, I'm telling you, there's like some extra kind of mercy. It's those people that pretend like they're good, everything's fine, or they don't want to acknowledge their struggle, their sin, their folly, whatever you want to call it. I feel like those are the people. Pride comes before a fall. They're the ones that things don't work out very well for them. Romans 8:25. But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it in patience. So hope, right? Faith is the things that you hope for that you don't see. People are like, oh, faith. No, faith is a real thing. We all have faith. We all have a measure of faith. So we have to be patient when we're standing on something. Say you're believing for a healing, right? And you haven't seen it yet. And let me just say this, because there are a lot of people like, look, sometimes God chooses not to heal us. I don't know why. I don't know all the answers, but I know that I stand on His word and for every promise that's in there. I don't know. Sometimes things are for a greater purpose that I can't see because I am not God. Or, you're standing for a new job, right? You're believing for whatever, a loved one to get saved. You're believing for someone to get free of an addiction, right? Sometimes you get impatient with people, right? Well, it says right here to wait. We are impatient people. But think about how much patience God has with us every day. I am very grateful that I feel like I should have been smited already, okay? Because His love is so amazing and He's so patient with us. But yet we are not patient with each other. I'm not. I get very frustrated about stuff. Sometimes you see I know I've seen some really hardcore injustice and bad things with certain people doing some really messed up stuff. And I'm like, well, God, when are you going to reveal it? I pray about it every day. And I haven't seen it yet. There are things I've been waiting for years that I've been praying about. People that I love that I'm praying for their salvation that I haven't seen it. Years. When I say years, I could think of one person I've been praying for the last 10 years. But I'm going to see it. I don't stop. You can't give up. You can't give up. You never give up on anybody. Ever. You never give up on yourself either. Like I always say, if you fall, you get back up. Because there's areas in my life that have been like some hardcore strongholds. Learning to love myself. Hardcore. It's taken me a long time. Those old familiar thoughts. Those, I could be having a great day and all of a sudden, boom, I hear one of those thoughts in my head. Learning how to, be patient with myself and my healing and my recovery and whatever. And when I say recovery, we all have areas that we need to recover from. It's not just a substance thing. Some of us struggle with anxieties and fears. Well, we have to be patient with ourselves and be patient with other people that are struggling. And I struggle with that. With certain things, I really do. And I want to be better at that. And that patience is a fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, all that. Long-suffering, meekness, kindness, gentleness. If you don't know what that is, look up fruits of the Spirit. That means when we get saved, God gives us our spirit. There's new things that we have, but we have to cultivate them. We have to yield to it. We could either yield just because, when people say, oh, they're a Christian, they do that. Well, you have two choices in life. If you give yourself, people that are not saved, sinners are gonna sin. That's what they do. Before, they don't have a choice in it because they're dictated by their desires and their feelings. But if you're a believer, you can either yield to what, say, God, please help me. You could listen, it's not a sin to be tempted. I have all sorts of temptations sometimes. But you don't do it. you go, but not in Sabina's strength. I have to say, God, help me right now. I really want to do this, but I want to do the right thing. Or I'm really angry right now. I want to flip out on this person. Help me change my heart right now. Calm me down. God really works. If you give whatever you're feeling to him, he'll help you. That's why I say I'm like his most desperate, I'm like I need Jesus more than anybody. That's how I think of it. Like the first day I ever got sober, right? I was like, there's no way I could do this. When people say, oh, no, I could have never, because besides the mental addiction, but just I just couldn't have done it without running to him. I run to God about everything. He's my father. He's my best friend. Like I just said, he's everything. There's nobody that can love you like Jesus. But I didn't understand that. And I didn't really, it took me a long time to really grasp that. And I had to make a lot of stupid decisions to really understand, what am I looking for? We're all looking for love in all the wrong places. He's the greatest love of all. But I understand that most of us don't know that. We believe Jesus died on the cross, or if we even believe that, right? We accept him in our heart, going to heaven. But there's I see it. It's like, I could have a friend, right? We're cool. Maybe it's a coworker, and we're cool. We say hi, we'll have some small talk, we're good. If I saw her and she needed help on the side of the road, I'm going to help her. I'd probably help her anyways, even if I didn't know her. And then that's a layer. That's a level, right? That's a layer of relationship right there. But then maybe we start talking more. Maybe I start finding out about her family. Maybe she starts telling me, now we're going deeper, right? There's layers. Or now we're hanging out, right? We're going out. We're talking. So, same thing with God, A lot of people have that religious, he's a faraway God. He's holy. He's God. We reverence him. Yes, we know who he is. But we don't share every little thing with him. We don't understand that he's a relational God. And maybe if I didn't have so many losses and so many betrayals and so much rejection, I probably wouldn't know God the way I do. I wouldn't need him in that way. Because I always say we have voids, right? Some of us are like me, my voids were like Swiss cheese, like holes all over my soul. Because I lost so many friends, so many family members, so many horrible things. And I had a lot of voids. And I was filling them with everything of this world that never satisfied. Sex, drugs, alcohol, whatever. I mean, a million different things. But you always need more. And you're never fully satisfied. You're just temporarily satisfied until you wake up in the morning and that void is still there. And I can't tell you that, the sorrow that I've felt in my life is so deep. Who else could love me in that sorrow? Most people, someone was just saying a little while ago, she didn't want to cry to me because she didn't want to put her negative energy on me. I'm thinking, no way. You're hurting. God doesn't feel that way. We can run to God. We can cry. Who else is there that understands every detail of our life and how we feel and how we perceive a situation? And even if we're wrong, sometimes we perceive things wrong. But God still sees how you perceive it. So he can help you to say, okay, calm you down, clean you up like the swan, and then show you that's not how it really is. Because sometimes we're wrong and we're sensitive or we see things. So back to patience. I don't know why I always do that. But being patient with yourself. Being patient, even driving. Being patient with others. It is definitely a virtue. And our society does not have it. We are the most impatient society. Sometimes people yell at their kids, right? Because they think they're being annoying. but maybe their kid's really trying to share something that they're really feeling. Or we cut people off when they're talking, right? I'm guilty. Get to the point, because I have so much time, right? You're wasting time. Maybe someone just needs to vent. Maybe someone's having a really hard day. They just want someone to listen. I wrote that down somewhere, right? Slow to speak, quick to listen. A lot of times, there's a reason that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And we've all heard that. Sometimes we can really hear someone's heart and what's really going on in a situation if we just listen instead of trying to come up with our defense or even just trying to get them to finish. Listening matters. Most of our lives, we should be listening more. I like a lot of silence. I love music on all the time, but I mean like silence. I love just going out to a park, or I just love that silence, because then you can hear clearer, you can perceive things better. Patience. If sometimes we get involved with friendships that are not good for us, but if we would have just waited a minute, if you're patient, sometimes you gotta let people will reveal who they really are in time. So never think, because people don't have to know you have a wall up. What does the Bible say? Be wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove. Give it some time. A person will show who they really are if you can trust them. Not everything is instant. Everything that we go through, I'm convinced, is because of a lack of patience, And also, think about it. Not having patience means that we really don't trust God. Or maybe we trust Him a little bit, or in one area, but not in this area. I don't trust that God's going to send me the right person, or I don't trust that God's going to get me a job, or help, provide for my needs, or everything that God promises you. You don't know. You don't really trust Him on that level yet. And how do you get to trust somebody? You go through hardships, and you realize, whoa, it always works out in the end. God always does come through. Sometimes I wish I could put my life as a movie. The lessons that I've learned, you just can't, learn them any other way. But a lot of times we have to learn from other people, our own mistakes, right? But once we realize that God can't lie, He's not a liar. The only one that can lie 24/7, 7 days a week, is the devil. He's a liar, a big fat liar. That's all he can do. And he'll lie. And sometimes our own thoughts are liars, right? They'll just, we'll believe the lies about other people. We'll believe lies about ourselves. So I'll tell you real quick what happened. I went on a little trip. I just wanted to go overnight somewhere. Well, 2 nights, but just wanted to get out of my environment and be in nature. And this is another metaphor, I suppose. I didn't see the sign because I had been driving for hours, so I didn't see the sign. I thought I was at the Airbnb, and it was a hill, and there was a house, right? But the address that the GPS gave me, I put in the right address, but the number on the house was the wrong number. So I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, maybe it's up this hill. It's a duplex or something. So I didn't see that there was a warning sign, caution, up the hill. So I go up the hill. I get up the hill, and I'm like, that's still not the number on this. It was a little deck, but there was nowhere to turn around. There was a fire pit, and there was a ditch. So there's just this little path. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And instead of, maybe if I would have gone slow and tried to turn to go down the hill, it would have been good. But no, I'm tired. I'm impatient now. I just want to get to my destination. Okay? So I went down the hill. Backwards, right? I'm going slow, but, it's, I have a little car. Not used to going up the hills, down the hills. And as I'm going down the hill, I went on the wrong side, and I ended up caught in the mud, I guess, stuck in a ditch. So I'm like, like I'm pissed, right? So I'm like, so I can't get out. I'm stuck. I'm trying. The lady was super nice. The Airbnb lady puts her husband on. She's like trying to like give me some like tips on like how to get out, but it's not budging. The car's not going. Now, mind you, right? How do I describe this? I'm like, okay, so there's a tree right here. This is my car. I'm like this close to the tree behind me, and right behind the tree is like a ditch, right? Like the car's gonna be crashing, right? So I'm like, oh my goodness, right? But I was grateful that I didn't end up over there, and I'm calling tow trucks and they want $350. I'm like, what? Like, I just need to be pulled out. Like this is crazy. So now I'm getting really upset, and the door was open, right? So now there's a tree, like the door is on the opposite side of the tree. So I had my foot on the, because I was uphill, on the emergency brake, and I didn't realize it till after the fact. So I just, I have automatic start car. I hit the button and shut it off. But what I didn't realize, because I was rushing and I was impatient, and also probably because I was upset too, I'll give myself that kind of grace, that my car, I thought it was in park, but it was in drive. So I must have been so upset, and I just hit the emergency brake and still was in drive and got out of my car. So the only reason why the car didn't really go all the way back into the ditch and totally be decimated was because I had the emergency brake on. So as soon as I did that, I shut the car off. Now I'm standing in between a tree and the car. It goes back, and I got stuck between the tree. Well, I slipped out of it. And now, but I don't even know now that I think about it. I don't know. Oh, I hit the emergency brake. That's when I realized again that my car was in park. I crashed into the tree in the back. So now I'm still not all the way in the big ditch. And my door was open. So now my door doesn't close. Well, I didn't know that yet because I'm on the other side of that. And then the back light got busted. All because I got impatient. All because I was upset. I wasn't, that's another thing. When you're impatient, right? You make careless mistakes. And if I really think about it, I've made a lot of careless mistakes in my life because of being impatient. A lot. And I bet I'm not the only one out there. If you were to sit down and think about things that could have been avoided, could have just been pulling me out, that's it. Now, my door doesn't close. So now I had to drive back, and I was, the tow truck guy's like, oh, thank God, it jammed closed, but now I can't go out that door when fully, it doesn't, and I got a busted light. So, moral of the story, slow down, be patient, right? How many times do we make life decisions out of being impatient? Like I said earlier, relationships. A lot of times we rush into marrying someone, or we rush into, anything, because let's keep it going. We just want whatever we're seeing in our head, My advice to everybody is let's work on this week and every day of our lives just being more patient with yourself. Patient with God too, because you got to think God is perfect. He's perfect. You are not perfect. I am not perfect. We are flawed. We don't have pure motives all the time. We don't have pure intentions. And if you think you're I remember I heard someone the other day, it was irking me. It's like, I am so pure in heart. No, you're not. There is nobody that is completely, yes, blessed are the pure in heart, they shall see God. But we all have moments where we can have our heart, tampered with. Maybe a little bitterness gets in, a little resentment. Now, I believe, blessed are the pure in heart. I think like David said in the Word of God, Psalms, create in me a clean heart, renew a right spirit in me. That's one of my big prayers, because I want to have a clean heart. I want to, but when we have resentments or anger or rejection or fear or wherever, or people do us dirty, Let's just be real. Sometimes people really suck. Sorry, they do. But that's when we have to, like that swan, we got to go into that ICU with God. And people wonder why I pray a lot, because I want to have that right heart. I want to see God, and I want to see people get saved. And I want to see people get healed and delivered from drugs and alcohol and just all sorts of things. There have been some horrible things that have happened to so many of us. We live in such a broken world. When I'm out there talking to like the homeless people, and we do like those things, outreaches or whatever, and I hear their stories and I share my story, I cry. Because we just really live in a really sad world. And yes, one day God's going to wipe away all our tears and we're going to understand all of it. But sometimes, like I said, being a listening ear. You know, we're all in a rush for what? Life happens quick. We're all getting older. We cannot get back tomorrow. We can't get back 2 seconds ago. You can't go 41 minutes. You can't get back these 41 minutes of listening to me go on and ramble. So let's make every moment count. Because we don't know what any of us are going to go through. You know? So I guess that's all I really have to say for today. You know? Be patient with yourself. It does get better. But you gotta be good to yourself. You gotta be good to yourself. And if you don't know how, you just gotta ask God to help you. I know I've had to do that. And be good to other people. Because everybody's going through a battle. You know that saying, like, everybody's going through something. Everybody's going through something. And if we were more patient, we wouldn't be, you know, think about when people flip you the bird, right? Driving, like, hey, you know, whatever. I could say, you guys know what people say. I used to be that way. I'd flip, yes. Oh, gosh, I've changed a lot. Like, you know, especially when I remember first moving out of New York. And I think I've told this story before. And, like, I'm like, people are, like, online at the Publix, and they're like, how are you doing? And they're having like a conversation. I just want to buy my bread, and I'm getting like so angry. I'm like, what the heck? Like, they're like having a full conversation. Like, I'm used to like, let's go. Nobody smiles at you. No one says hello, you know? And it really used to make me angry. Like, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, freaking go pay for your stuff and get off the line. Now, after being down here for a while, that's changed. I wonder sometimes if a lot of my anxiety was just from living in New York. I'm convinced. Everything's so fast-paced in our life. Everybody's more chill down here, you know? And it's helping me to chill. But I want, like, something as simple as that. Like, why would that make me upset? Because it was something I was not familiar with. And it was just, I wanted to pay for my stuff and get out. Well, you know what? They were having a moment with a stranger. They were being kind to one another. And I was so wrong. But I had to learn, you know? We all are growing, hopefully, right? If you're not growing, there's a problem. We're all growing. We go every day. We're learning new stuff. I would hope. About ourselves, about others. But just, you know, take that time to listen to someone's heart, you know? Because everybody is going through something. So I'm just going to say a quick prayer. God, I know I just rambled on, but I just pray that anyone that is listening to this video, Lord, that you would help me and help them and help us all to be more patient and really understand what that even means. Help us to see how patient you've been with us, so that we can be patient with others. And I just pray that anyone that's listening, that all this stuff may sound foreign, maybe they don't know you at all, I ask you to please reveal your love to them. Reveal who you are. Just like that poem that no one can love them like Jesus. And I know what it's like to be on the other side and think that that's so ridiculous. But now I know that it's the truth. And you had to reveal that to me. So I pray you reveal that to every person that's listening.